Hello you, it's me, and today we're going to talk about Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. Wow, oh my god, I was absolutely blown away by this, couldn't put it down. I'm filming this on release day. It officially came out today, I managed to get it yesterday. I just couldn't put this book down. I've been waiting for another novel by Susanna Clarke since Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell came out, and even though this is much shorter, it's only about 220 pages, it is worth every minute of the 16-year wait. This is the best book I've read so far this year, and honestly, I think it's probably jumped up into my top 3 books ever. I'm not sure which one is kicked out of the top 3, but I'll keep you updated. So 5 stars, 10 out of 10, and I know opinion is subjective, and it's probably wrong for me to call a book perfect, but for me, this book was perfect. I'm going to try and keep this as non-spoilery as possible. If there's any spoiler stuff, it'll be right at the end, and I'll tell you when it's coming, so don't worry about this. I would not want to ruin this book for anybody. So I guess let's get to it. May your paths be safe, your floors unbroken, and may the house fill your eyes with beauty. The book revolves around a character called Piranesi, who lives in an endless labyrinth of these classical architectural halls filled with marble statues of every imaginable size, shape, and subject. The upper rooms are halls of mist, fog, and cloud, and the lower rooms are the domain of the rising and falling tide of an ocean that booms through the labyrinth, where Piranesi fishes and harvests seaweed. The middle rooms he shares with birds, the dead, to whom he brings offerings of water, food, and lilies from the flooded rooms of the lower floors, and a mysterious figure called the Other, the only other living inhabitant of the labyrinth, which Piranesi refers to as the House. The Other brings gifts for Piranesi, prying him for information, and believes that somewhere deep in the labyrinth there exists a hidden, secret knowledge of the ancients that he wishes to claim for himself. One day, however, there appear scrawled chalk messages in the labyrinth telling Piranesi not to trust the Other, and signs of another person who walks the halls of the labyrinth. Piranesi has to decide who he can trust and uncover secrets that will reshape the house and the world he loved and thought he knew. The title of the book is a reference to an artist called Giovanni Battista Piranesi, who among his architectural pieces produced a series of drawings of endless labyrinthine dungeonesque rooms with winding staircases, enormous columns, and these mind-bending perspectives. I didn't know how or how much this reference would tie into the story, and the way it did totally surprised me. Like the artist Piranesi, Clarke does a fantastic job of world-building something dark, gothic, and magical, but through the confidence and knowledge of the main character makes it seem comforting and almost familiar. And while the scenery of this place is being built, there are so many hints dropped and things given to you that make you go, hold on, what? How does that fit into the story? And it's less a puzzle that you have to put together yourself than a flower that opens and unfurls and reveals more and more of itself. So towards the end of the book, you're like, what? One thing I loved about this book is the absolute innocence of the main character and the wonder with which he describes this fantastic world as he moves through it. His only goals are to survive, to honor the dead, to help the Other, who is his only friend in the whole universe, to feed the birds, and to document his days in his journal, until events in the story make him reconsider his path and the actions that he has to take. It's written in first-person journal format and follows a time system that Piranesi has invented to mark the passage of time without any reference to years. Most events in this book taking place in the year the albatross came to the southwestern halls. One of the things I thought was really charming in this book was the use of capital letter nouns, which Piranesi in his writing clearly uses to emphasize the things that are important to him. The writing style the whole way through this book is incredibly beautiful. There's very little I can tell you about the story of this book without spoiling it, and I really strongly believe everyone should go into this as blindly as I did. It's a slow piecing together of a world, and what I thought were big reveals initially that confused me because they were so early on in the story were just completely eclipsed by things that happen later, and this was just so original, inventive, and gorgeous to read. And the ending, while it left me wanting more, obviously it's an amazing book and I want to read it forever, was just so satisfying, wrapped up perfectly, and really made me quite teary. I know that Clarke was actually diagnosed with Lyme disease and CFS after the publication of her previous novel, Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, and was actually unsure whether this one would ever see publication. And I think her being sick and bedbound probably had a huge impact on this story, which is about a young man who, for him, his house is his entire universe. And maybe this story will hit even harder now and be relevant in a strange new way in a time of isolation and containment. The story really addresses in a big way what it would be like to not have a rift between you and the world you live in. Piranesi is almost a creature of complete instinct, and with his self-sufficiency and help of other things in the house, he fits as part of his own universe. And I think that's something it's very natural for everybody to want. And he even goes so far as to say that he believes his role in the house is to appreciate the beauty of the house, in return for which the house will provide for him. And in a smaller way, I guess, it addresses what it would be like to live in a world without sin, threat, danger, whatever you want to call it, only beauty and providence, and what it would be like to have this taken away from you or distorted in some way. The beauty of the house is immeasurable. Its kindness, infinite. The next bit will have spoilers in it. It's not a long bit at the end of this review, but there's just a few things I wanted to say. There's a very clear influence in here from C.S. Lewis, and this has a similar vibe to, but sort of refined and perfected, The Magician's Nephew, the first book in the Narnia series, and even acknowledges the existence of the Narnia story in the story. Piranesi's favourite statue is of a faun, and he says he has a dream of it meeting a young girl in the woods by a lamppost. And that for me was the first sign that this world build was deeper than it initially appeared, that our universe must exist somewhere in this story. More hints are dropped when you're drawn into sort of this classical marble architectural environment, and then Piranesi talks about things like his polymer fishing net, his glasses, the fact that the other wears a three-piece suit. And the way that just slapped me in the brain, and I was constantly like, how does this fit? How does this fit? I thought was just amazing. The way that our world creeps in more and more, and the way we learn they're connected was incredible. It was almost sort of the reverse of Neverwhere, which is the book I can liken this most to, but even then, it's not even really much like that. There really isn't anything out there like this, and if there is, God, please tell me about it, so I can read it. I guess this also maybe has a similar theme / vibe to the 10,000 Doors of January, which came out last year. But even then, not really like that either. One thing I love and hate Susanna Clarke for is that in her previous novel and in this one, she invents books that don't exist in real life. Just few word groupings that sort of tease you and grab you. Like when I was reading Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, how much I wanted to read her invented book, A Child's History of the Raven King. And she really does the same in here. And I think it's incredible that these things that she's created only exist in the minds of her readers. So it's really annoying, but on the other hand, it's really amazing as well. Also, I went into this thinking from the cover that Piranesi was going to be a faun, which was a pretty dumb thing to think, I guess. I was surprised when he wasn't a faun. But yeah, fantastic, amazing, 5 out of 5 stars, 10 out of 10. Perfect for me. Everything I wanted in the story was in this book. I'll probably read it again, probably quite soon. I'm not going to be over this for a while. The imagery was so vivid, and I just know it's going to be like haunting my dreams for weeks. So thanks very much for watching. There are more reviews coming. I did put a couple of other reviews on hold so I could do the review for this one on release day. I'm impressed with my own organisation, so you should be too. Thank you so much for watching. Read this book. I love this book. I hope you do too. If you've read it as well this quickly, then please let me know what you thought in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. There is more coming as always. And I'll see you soon. Thank you so much.